Welcome to the world of science fiction where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. The twin moons of Xerxes III cast jagged shadows over the derelict battlefield, a graveyard of rusted war machines and shattered alien armor. Calvexis, a wiry Tevrian scavenger with cobalt blue skin and a cybernetic eye, picked through the debris. His breath fogged in the sub-zero air as he muttered, "Nothing but scrap and bones." Then his scanner beeped wildly. Beneath a collapsed Zenther dropship, a pristine cryopod hummed with residual power. Its surface was etched with old Terran script. Project Vanguard. Subject Delta. Cal's pulse spiked. Human tech was rare this far into Dominion space, and worth a fortune. With a grunt, he pried the pod open. Steam billowed out, revealing a muscular human male clad in a black bodysuit, his short-cropped hair dusted with frost. As his gold-flecked eyes snapped open, Cal stumbled back. The human's voice was a graveled growl. "Status report. Where's my squad?" Cal blinked. Squad? This war ended 200 years ago. The human, Rin Vero, lunged, pinning Cal against the wreckage with terrifying speed. "Lie again, and I'll rip your throat out." His grip was iron, his glare feral. Then the ground trembled. A Dominion patrol crested the ridge, their insectoid armor glinting. The lead hunter hissed, "By the Emperor's will. That's a vanguard. Kill it." Plasma rifles charge. Rin bared his teeth. Finally, a warm-up. The plasma bolts seared the air around them, turning the frozen battlefield into a storm of molten metal and smoke. Rin Vero moved like a ghost, fluid, precise, deadly. He snatched a jagged piece of wreckage and hurled it like a spear, impaling the nearest Dominion hunter through its thorax. The alien shrieked, ichor spraying in a black arc. Calvexis ducked behind a shattered tank, his heart hammering. This human wasn't just a soldier, he was a relic of something older. Something worse. Rin rolled behind cover, his breathing steady despite the chaos. His golden eyes locked onto Cal. "You said this war is over. Explain. Now." Cal swallowed. The Terran Accord fell centuries ago. The Dominion wiped them out, or so they claimed. A muscle twitched in Rin's jaw. Earth? Gone. Glassed from orbit. For the first time, the unshakable soldier hesitated. His grip on the shrapnel blade tightened until his knuckles turned white. Then, with a snarl, he vaulted over the wreckage in charge. The remaining hunters barely had time to scream. The ruins of a dead empire. They fled into the canyons of Xerxes II, where the wind howled like the ghosts of fallen warriors. Rin moved silently, scanning the horizon like a predator. Cal struggled to keep up, his lungs burning. "You're telling me," Rin said, voice dangerously calm, "that humanity lost." "Not just lost," Cal panted. "The Dominion erased them, burned their worlds, outlawed their language. Now they're just stories." Rin stopped dead. "Stories? Yeah. The Terrans, they say your kind could break armies with bare hands. That you fought like demons." Cal hesitated. "And that the Dominion fears one thing more than anything else." Rin's gaze sharpened. "What?" "A living human." A distant screech echoed through the canyons. Reinforcements. The first blood of vengeance. The hunters came in a swarm, their chitinous armor clicking as they scaled the rocks. Rin didn't flinch. He picked up a broken rifle, checked the charge, and tossed it to Cal. "Ever killed a Dominion soldier before?" Cal's throat went dry. "No." "Good." Rin cracked his neck. "Today, you learn." What followed wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. Rin moved like a storm, snapping limbs, crushing carapaces under his boots. Cal fired wildly, but the human didn't need help. He was death incarnate. When the last hunter fell, Rin stood amidst the carnage, his chest heaving. Then he turned to Cal, eyes burning with something dark. "If Earth is gone, then I'll make them remember why they feared us." The slave transport rumbled through the wasteland, its rusted treads crushing bones left behind from the last culling. Inside the cage, Kale pressed against the bars, watching the Dominion overseers lash at the chained laborers with shock rods. "This is suicide," he whispered. Beside him, Rinvero remained still as stone. His golden eyes tracked every guard, every weapon, every weak point in the transport structure. He didn't blink, didn't breathe too loud. "No," Rin said finally. "This is a message. The chains of Xerxes. They had let themselves be captured. It was Cal's idea. Sort of. Sneaking into Dominion territory was impossible, but slaves were invisible. The transport reached Outpost Sigma, a jagged fortress of black iron and screaming prisoners. As the gates groaned open, Cal's cybernetic eye flickered, scanning the defenses. 30 guards, automated turrets on the east wall. And his voice hitched. "They're separating the strong ones for the fighting pits." Rin's fingers flexed. "Good." A Zenther slaver yanked him from the cage, sneering at his human features. "This one's small, probably dies fast." Rin smiled. The pit and the legend. They threw him into the arena first. The crowd, a mix of Dominion officers and wealthy slavers, hissed as Rin stood alone in the blood-stained sand. Then the gates opened, and 3 Gornax berserkers lumbered out, each twice his size, their tusks dripping venom. "First kill gets extra rations," the announcer barked. The beasts charged. Rin moved. It wasn't a fight. It was art. A twist, a snap, a spray of black blood. The first Gornax collapsed, its spine severed. The second barely had time to roar before Rin drove its own tusk through its eye. The third tried to flee. It didn't make it 3 steps. The crowd fell silent. Then, from the slave pens, a whisper. "Terran. The awakening." Kale watched in awe as the prisoners, dozens of species, broken and beaten, stirred like a sleeping beast. Their eyes locked onto Rin. A scrawny Drillithian child tugged Cal's sleeve. "Is it true? Is he one of the old ones?" Before Cal could answer, the fortress alarms wailed. Dominion soldiers flooded the arena, rifles raised. Vanguard detected. Maximum threat. Rin wiped blood from his face and turned to the slaves. "You want freedom." He pointed at the guards. "Then take it." The chains snapped. The riot began. The riot became a wildfire. Slaves tore through the outpost with bare hands and stolen weapons, their fury unleashed after years of torment. Rinvero moved through the chaos like a blade through water, silent, inevitable. His target, the central command spire, where Dominion officers were barricading themselves behind blast doors. Kale sprinted after him, dodging plasma fire. "We need to get to the hangar, not deeper in." Rin didn't slow. "They have something of mine. The heart of the beast." The command spire's doors were vault-grade, designed to withstand siege. Rin placed his palm against the biometric scanner. The system hissed. "Welcome, Vanguard Prime." Cal's jaw dropped. "How?" "Told you," Rin said, stepping into the flickering blue light of the core chamber. This was mine. The room was a graveyard of old war machines, but at its center, a holographic AI flickered to life. A woman's face, her features sharp, her voice like cracking ice. "Rinvero, you are 247 years late for debriefing." The truth of Project Vanguard. The AI, Nexus 7, explained in cold, clinical tones. Project Vanguard was Earth's last gamble, a legion of genetically augmented soldiers designed to fight the Dominion on even footing. Rin wasn't just enhanced. He was the prototype. The first. The strongest. The Dominion didn't just fear humans. They feared him. "Your squad was wiped out during the final retreat," Nexus 7 said. "You were placed in stasis as a contingency, the last weapon." Rin's fists clenched. And Earth. The AI hesitated, a glitch in its programming. The accord fell. But not before we hid something. A map flashed across the screens, a derelict warship, drifting in the dead zone between galaxies. The Titan's shadow, Nexus 7 said. Your real mission. The price of remembering. Dominion reinforcements breached the spire. Kale grabbed Rin's arm. We have to go. But Rin was staring at the hologram, his face unreadable. You knew, he said softly. You knew they'd lose. Nexus 7's gaze was pitiless. We knew you'd wake up angry. The doors exploded inward. Rin moved. The derelict warship loomed in the void like a sleeping god. Kale gripped the stolen shuttle's controls, his cybernetic eye flickering as it processed the Titan's shadow's massive silhouette. The ship was ancient, its hull pockmarked by centuries of micro-impacts, but the faint hum of its dormant engines vibrated through the cockpit. That thing still has power, Kale muttered. Beside him, Rin Vero stared at the vessel with something like recognition. Not just power, he said. A heartbeat. Behind them, the Dominion fleet closed in. Ghosts in the machine. The shuttle docked with a bone-deep thud, its seals clamping onto the Titan's shadow's airlock. The moment the hatch opened, the ship's systems woke up. Lights flickered on in sequence, revealing a corridor lined with Terran war banners, their colors faded but still defiant. The air smelled of ozone and old blood. A voice echoed from the walls, synthetic, but warm. Identity confirmed. Vanguard Prime. Welcome home, Captain Vero. Rin's breath hitched. Echo. The AI's tone softened. You've been gone a long time. The last command. The bridge was frozen in time. Consoles stood ready, dustless, as if waiting for a crew that would never return. At the center, a holographic tactical display showed the last stand of Earth's fleet, a battle so brutal it had scared the stars themselves. Echo's projection materialized, a human woman in a military uniform, her eyes sorrowful but unbroken. The Accord knew they couldn't win, she said, so they made sure the Dominion wouldn't either. The display zoomed in on a weapon schematic. Kel's stomach dropped. Is that a resonance cascade warhead? Rin finished, his voice hollow. Designed to rip space itself apart. Echo nodded. The Titan's shadow was never meant to fight. It was meant to end the war. The choice. Outside, the Dominion fleet formed a kill box. Their comms crackled. Surrender the Vanguard, and you die quickly. Rin didn't answer. He was staring at the weapons activation console. Kale grabbed his arm. You can't be thinking. They killed my world, Rin said softly. My squad. Everything. Echo stepped closer. There's another option. She gestured to the ship's secondary systems, a broadcast array powerful enough to reach every corner of Dominion space. You could remind them, she said, why they feared us. The signal. Rin's fingers hovered over the controls. Then he chose. The Titan's shadow's engines roared to life, its ancient weapons charging. But it wasn't the warhead that fired, it was the broadcast. A single message, transmitted on every frequency, in every language. This is Captain Rin Vero of the Terran Accord. We are not extinct. We are not forgotten. And we are coming. Across the galaxy, slaves lifted their heads. The Dominion fleet hesitated. And in that moment of uncertainty, the Titan's shadow jumped to warp, leaving only an echo of defiance behind. Epilogue. The spark. Kale watched the stars streak past the viewport. What now? Rin's golden eyes burned in the dim light. Now we find out how many others are still out there. Somewhere, in the dark, a resistance was waking up, and it had just heard its first war cry.